All right, now the face-to-face talks between the American and the Iranian delegations began at about 5:30 p.m. Islamabad time and have been underway throughout the day. Reports suggest that the two sides are still engaged, even though a major point of disagreement has apparently emerged over the control of the Strait of Hormuz. Also, no face-to-face talks pictures have been released so far, even though these are the highest level of face-to-face talks between the two sides since the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The United States has said that the full teams of the U.S. experts on relevant subject areas are present in Islamabad. The White House has also put out additional experts are apparently supporting from Washington. Pakistan says that the United States and Iran have emphasized the importance of sustained dialogue and have noted that peace and stability in the region still remain essential for economic cooperation and shared progress. The three-way talks are face-to-face between the American side, that is led by J.D. Vance and Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The Iranian side has Mohammad Ghalibaf, Abbas Araghchi, and Pakistan's army chief, who also has a seat at the table. Ahead of the talks, the American vice president had held a closed-door bilateral meeting with Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, a meeting that included key figures from both sides. The American delegation featured Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, while Pakistan was represented by the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar and the Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian put out, and I quote, this is the statement, the high-ranking Iranian delegation that has arrived in Pakistan is a staunch guardian of Iran's interests with all its might, and in this vein, it will engage in negotiations with courage. In any case, our service to the people will not pause for a moment, and whatever the outcome of the negotiations may be, the government stands firmly by the people of Iran. Now, according to the Iranian state media, Iran's red lines include the release of Iran's blocked assets, a ceasefire in Lebanon, the Strait of Hormuz being under Iranian control, and the payment of war reparations. The Iranian media has confirmed that the United States had agreed to unfreeze Iran's funds, and earlier, the United States had denied unfreezing the blocked assets. The U.S. Central Command forces claim that they have now begun setting conditions for clearing the mines in the Strait of Hormuz, as two U.S. Navy-guarded missile destroyers conducted some operations there. Iran earlier stated that a deal with the United States is only possible if negotiators prioritize an America-first approach rather than an Israeli-first agenda, warning that the latter will lead to continued Iranian defense and higher global costs. Pakistan has made it clear it wants to position itself as a key mediator in the region, hoping that this initiative can lead to sustainable peace and elevate its diplomatic standing. All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got Professor James A. Russell, who's an associate professor in the Department of National Security Affairs at NPS, where he teaches courses on U.S. foreign policy, military innovation, and national security strategy, and is joining us live all the way from Monterey in California. Now, Professor Russell, thank you very much indeed for taking time out and speaking to us here in WION. Now, the negotiations that started roughly at about 5:30 p.m. Pakistan time reportedly are still underway. It's gone on for more than 6+ hours. In your assessment, the fact that these negotiations have gone on for this long and there has been not a single picture that has been put out, what do you think the two sides at this moment are thinking about? Because the United States and the Israelis started this war to carry out what was effectively the denuclearization of Iran. But Iran, in the course of this war, has managed to capture control of the Strait of Hormuz, and that's now become a main point of contention.
What I think is that, as we can expect in negotiations like this, I would expect that both sides are summarizing their positions, and the fact that the delegations are speaking directly to one another is, I think, an extremely positive step. It's also a positive step, I think, that the negotiations have, for this session at least, have gone on as long as they've had. which implies that there are substantive discussions on all the issues that you have just outlined in your excellent report. What I would say, though, the outlier here is that while we have the Pakistanis, the Iranians, and the Americans, the 60,000-pound elephant in the room is the Israelis, of course, who are still bombing Lebanon. They are not, and Benjamin Netanyahu in your report says he has no intention of stopping his war in Lebanon or stopping the war against Iran. So we have this kind of situation where the United States wants to make some kind of agreement, at least I think we should all fervently hope this is the case, while the Israelis, of course, have no interest in an agreement. So this is a major sort of problem in the format of the talks ongoing in Islamabad.
You know, the elephant in the room is missing. Israel is not a part of these negotiations, and Israel is, of course, a party to this war. We'll talk about what the Israeli interests and intentions are in just a bit. But looking at what has transpired in the last 5+ weeks, a lot of military analysts have said that the Americans and the Israelis have managed to win a number of tactical victories, but they're effectively staring at a strategic defeat in Iran, because Iran did not control the Strait of Hormuz before this war began, but now it does. How much of a victory do you think the control of the Strait of Hormuz is for the Iranians?
Well, it's a staggering victory on their part. And as I have said before on these exchanges, it was clear from the beginning that Iran was fighting the war at the strategic level, which is to say the connection of military operations to political objectives, which is not something that the United States, neither the United States nor the Israelis really grasped. We remained focused at the tactical and operational level, thinking that blowing up buildings and destroying boats, and in the case of the bombing in Tehran, destroying hospitals was somehow a success. Whereas Iran, of course, remained focused upon the strategic level, the politics, the political objectives, as Karl von Clausewitz might say. They remained focused on these, and they have seized the most important objective available to them, which is, of course, the Strait of Hormuz, which is a choke point of global significance. I do think that it is a good sign today that American warships entered the strait to start the mine clearing operations and weren't fired upon by the Iranians. So this is a good step. So, but it is clear that Iran has the strategic upper hand here in the negotiations. It's clear that there's no military solution to the various problems that still exist between the United States, Israel, and Iran. These have to be resolved at the negotiating table. And again, one hopes that Vance and his group there are empowered to reach some kind of agreement on the outstanding issues, with, again, Israel sitting as the outlier.